After 23 years of marriage, my wife looked me dead in the eye over our morning coffee and told me she was through with me. Just like that. I didn't argue. I didn't even say a word. I stood up, walked out, and kept quiet, because she had no idea what was coming next. When I returned to pick up my dad's old military medals, I found a car I didn't recognize parked right in our driveway, a loan agreement with my forged signature, and $180,000 that had mysteriously vanished. But the real gut punch came from my daughter's text. She wrote, "Dad, I don't like the way Mom's friend looks at me." That's when I realized this wasn't just betrayal. There was something deeper, something unsettling. It wasn't just betrayal, it was survival. My name's Jack Walker. I'm 48 years old, and after more than 2 decades of marriage, my wife threw in the towel like she was canceling a magazine subscription. No emotion, no drama, just done. I still remember the day clearly. It was a Wednesday evening. I always got home late on Wednesdays after wrapping up paperwork on hazardous material reports. See, I work as a hazmat specialist. That means I deal with everything folks are too scared to touch: chemical spills, factory accidents, even cleaning up old meth labs for the cops. I've handled substances that could wipe out neighborhoods. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the emotional toxicity that had been festering right in my own home. Laura was sitting at the kitchen island, scrolling on her phone when I walked in. She didn't even lift her head. Without even looking at me, she said, "I'm done, Jack." Been done for a while. The microwave clock blinked 7:36 p.m. The dishwasher was humming. Everything looked so normal, except my marriage had just been declared over, like it was nothing more than a food order gone wrong. I set my lunchbox on the counter and asked, "What's that supposed to mean?" My voice was calmer than I thought it would be. That's when she finally glanced up at me, like I was an old email she just opened. "It means I'm not happy. Haven't been for years. And I think deep down, you already know that." I just stood there, still in my steel-toed work boots, trying to process what she'd said, analyzing it the same way I'd break down a hazardous scene at work. Slowly, carefully, trying to pinpoint where the danger was coming from. But unlike at work, I didn't have a playbook for this. "Is there someone else?" I asked, even though my gut had already given me the answer. When you've spent decades disarming dangerous situations, you get a sixth sense about when something's ready to blow. She didn't confirm or deny it, just gave a shrug and said, "Does it really matter? We've been roommates for years, Jack. You're married to your job." That night, I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just nodded, went upstairs, packed a bag, and left. At work, I had a clear protocol for when it was time to evacuate. I figured, why not apply that to home too? By 5:10 the next morning, I was out. I left a short note on the kitchen counter, giving myself a moment. "We'll talk later about what comes next." That was it. Laura thought she'd closed the book on our life together. But what she didn't know was that she'd just kicked off the most intense chapter yet. I spent that first week holed up at a rundown motel off Highway 11. You know the kind, where the ice machine's always broken and the bedspread probably hasn't been changed since the Bush administration. The place smelled like a mix of bleach and cheap air freshener, but I didn't care. After all the years I'd spent dealing with toxic messes, the smell didn't bother me. I took emergency leave from work, told them I was dealing with a family crisis, which, technically, wasn't a lie. By the 8th day, I realized something important. I'd left my father's service medals in the locked drawer of my home office. Those medals were more than just keepsakes. They reminded me of everything my dad stood for: integrity, courage, sticking to your word. I needed to hold on to that now more than ever. I decided to swing by the house on a Friday afternoon, figuring Laura would be at work. She had a desk job at the local community college. As I turned onto our street, or what used to be our street, my stomach started churning. Sitting bold as daylight in our driveway was a sleek black Audi. Not parked like a guest, either. This car was sitting there like it belonged. I parked a few houses down and watched. The garage was shut, curtains drawn. Whoever this was, they weren't just dropping by, they were making themselves at home. I sat there nearly an hour, debating what to do. Part of me, the trained hazmat guy, wanted to approach this like any other dangerous scene: assess, identify, isolate. But the other part, the betrayed husband, just needed to know what the heck was going on. At 3:54 p.m., the front door opened. Out walked a man, tall, fit, probably around 32. He was laughing, talking to someone still inside. Then Laura stepped into view. She was wearing a dress I didn't recognize. She reached up, pulled him in, and kissed him. And it wasn't some shy, uncertain kiss. It was the kind that made it clear this wasn't new. When they finally pulled apart, she gave him a playful shove toward the car. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked. "Maybe earlier," she laughed, a laugh I hadn't heard in years. "I already miss you, Michael." Michael. Now the mystery man had a name. I slouched down in my seat as he drove past, the Audi humming like it didn't have a care in the world. Once he was gone, I waited 10 more minutes. Then I pulled into the driveway like I still lived there, because technically, I did. My key still worked. One small comfort. I stepped inside. The smell of home hit me so hard, I almost had to catch my breath. I heard the shower running upstairs. Laura. Good. I moved quickly to my office, opened the desk drawer, and grabbed the small wooden box that held my father's medals. As I turned to leave, something caught my eye. There was an unfamiliar folder sitting on my desk, labeled refinance documents. I opened it, curious at first, but that curiosity quickly turned to cold dread. Inside were loan papers, $180,000 for a second mortgage on our house. My name was on the dotted line. My signature, or at least, something close to it. But not close enough. The J was too neat. The W leaned the wrong way. It was a forgery, and not a great one if you knew what to look for. I'd never signed these papers. The shower upstairs shut off. I didn't have time to process it. I snapped photos of every page with my phone, grabbed the box with my dad's medals, and slipped out the front door, heart pounding. Back in my car, my hands were trembling, part anger, part shock. I zoomed in on the photos, studying the notary stamp, the signature dates, the loan details. Everything looked legit, except it wasn't. She hadn't just moved on emotionally, she'd stolen my identity. But the bigger question was why? And where did this guy Michael fit into it? Was this about love or money? I drove straight to Daniel's place. He's been my best friend since high school, ex-Navy SEAL, now running a construction crew. If anyone knew how to help me navigate a war zone, it was him. He didn't ask questions when I walked into his basement with a face full of fire and a folder full of trouble. He handed me a beer and cleared off his pool table. I laid out the photos. "She forged my name," I said. "Took out a loan for $180,000 on the house." Daniel gave a low whistle. "You called the cops yet?" "Not yet," I replied, running a hand over my face. "I need to figure out what I'm dealing with first." My phone buzzed. It was a text from my daughter, Amelia. "Dad, when are you coming home? Things are weird here." She didn't know everything, just that I'd left. At 17, she was sharp, but I tried to shield her from the worst of it. Then another text came through. "Mom's friend is here again. I don't like the way he looks at me." That was it. My blood went ice cold. "I've got to get my daughter," I said, already moving toward the door. Daniel caught my arm. "Don't storm in there half-cocked, man. You'll lose whatever edge you've got. Think like it's hazmat containment first." He was right. I took a deep breath and called Amelia. "Dad?" Her voice was small. "Can you pick me up from Maya's later? I don't want to go home tonight." "What's going on, sweetheart?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. She hesitated. "Mom's friend, Michael, he keeps asking weird questions about you. Like your schedule, your bank codes. And yesterday, I heard him tell Mom they need to move faster because you might catch on." Everything inside me locked into place. "I'm coming now," I told her. "Pack a bag with what you need." An hour later, Amelia was safe at Daniel's place. She cried when I explained a little of what was going on, not all of it. Not yet. That night, once she was asleep, I got a call from an unknown number. "Walker," I answered, voice flat. "Jack." The voice on the other end was smooth. "Michael Benson here. I think we should talk." "About what?" "Your quick departure. And your daughter's, too. Laura's pretty upset." I almost laughed. "Is she upset about the affair, or the forged documents?" 5 seconds of silence. "I see," he finally said. "That complicates things. But not beyond repair. Let's meet. Man to man. Bayview Cafe. Noon." I agreed, even though every instinct told me not to. After hanging up, I froze all my accounts, then contacted Abigail Adams, the attorney Daniel had recommended, a fraud and divorce specialist. Because Michael thought he was setting a trap. But the truth was, he just stepped into a containment zone. And I don't fail at neutralizing threats, not once I've identified them. The Bayview Cafe sat along the Nashua River, beautiful spot, full view, lots of witnesses. Perfect. I showed up 40 minutes early, picked a table in the corner with my back to the wall, and ordered a black coffee. Just like Abigail advised, gather intel, don't agree to anything, and record everything. The small device in my pocket was already rolling. At exactly noon, Michael walked in. He looked like he belonged in a high-end car ad. Tailored blazer, flashy watch, and a kind of swagger that was more smug than confident. He spotted me right away and walked over, hand out like we were old friends. "Jack, glad we could finally meet." That smile never made it to his eyes. I didn't take his hand. "Sit down, Michael. Let's skip the small talk." He sat across from me and ordered an espresso without missing a beat. "All right, straight to it then. I assume you found the refinance papers." "Unfortunate necessity," he said like it was no big deal. "Necessity?" I kept my voice calm, though it took effort. "So forging my name was just something you had to do?" He leaned in, lowering his voice. "Look, Laura and we've got big things in motion. Big plans. But we needed capital. She told me your marriage was over a long time ago. That make it okay to commit fraud?" I asked, sipping my coffee to cover the bitterness in my voice. "I prefer to call it creative financing," he said, grinning like he'd just said something clever. "Here's the pitch. We still need your real signature on some transfer forms. In return, you walk away with 12% of the loan. It's a win-win." I just stared at him. "You're seriously trying to bribe me to give up my own house?" "I'm offering you a clean slate," he said, like he was doing me a favor. "And a bit of cash for your trouble. Honestly, it's more than you probably deserve, considering how you treated Laura." That one stung. I could feel my jaw clench, but I thought of Amelia's text, how this guy looked at her, asked her weird questions, talked about me like I was a problem to be handled. "Let me ask you something," I said, quiet but sharp. "Does this plan of yours involve my daughter too? Because she mentioned you asking about my work schedule, my bank codes, even something about speeding up a timeline." His face twitched. First surprise, then something colder. "Calculating. Kids blow things out of proportion," he said. "But speaking of Amelia, Laura's really upset you took her. Courts don't usually like that." "Yeah, well, courts don't like forged signatures either. Or grown men making teenage girls feel unsafe in their own homes." The fake smile dropped right off his face. "Careful, Walker. If you keep making accusations like that, things might not end well." "They already are," I said, standing up and towering over him. "Tell Laura she'll be hearing from my lawyer. And Michael? Stay away from my daughter." I turned and walked out while he muttered behind me, not bothering to listen. Once I got back in my car, I shut off the recorder and sat still for a second, trying to calm my heartbeat. That meeting had confirmed it. This wasn't just a breakup or even a betrayal. It was calculated. Dangerous. My phone buzzed with a new message. "Unknown number. You handled that well. Coffee sometime? Abigail." And just like that, I felt something I hadn't felt in a while. A flicker of hope, buried under all the mess. Abigail Adams wasn't at all what I'd expected. Most lawyers I knew were buttoned-up guys who spoke in legal jargon. Abigail was sharp, no nonsense, and surprisingly easy to talk to. "Your wife didn't come up with this on her own," she said as she replayed the audio from my meeting with Michael. "We were in her office, lined with plaques and awards for busting financial scams. This guy's done this before," she added. "How can you tell?" I asked. She didn't hesitate. "He's too smooth. The way he talks, it's practiced. That creative financing line? Classic scammer language." I leaned forward. "So what do we do now?" "Step 1, freeze your shared accounts," she said, already typing on her laptop. "Then we pull the loan paperwork. If that money's not going to home improvements like the application says, we've got a solid fraud case." Just then, my phone rang. It was Amelia, and her voice was tight with panic. "Dad, Mom just came to school. She's mad, saying you kidnapped me. The principal called me to the office." I stood up fast, already grabbing my jacket. "Don't go anywhere with her." "I'm coming now." I told Abigail what was happening. She was already packing her bag. "I'm coming too. Custody stuff gets messy. You'll need backup." About 25 minutes later, we walked into Lexington High's main office. Laura was there by the principal's desk, playing the part of the concerned mother, but I could see through it. Her expression flickered when she saw me, and then turned cold when she noticed Abigail at my side. "Jack," she said flatly. "And who's she?" I didn't blink. "My attorney," I replied calmly. "Where's Amelia?" The principal, middle-aged, balding, and clearly wishing he were anywhere else, nodded toward his office. She asked to wait in there when her mother showed up. Laura took a step closer, her voice sharp. "You had no right to take her. I'm still her mother. And I'm still her father," I said evenly, locking eyes with her. "The same father whose signature you forged to get a fraudulent loan." The principal's eyebrows jumped like he'd just walked into the middle of a crime drama. Laura's fake calm cracked. That's absurd, she snapped. Tell him, Mr. Dawson, how Jack works with dangerous chemicals. How his job messes with his head. Low blow. Using my career, the one I chose to help keep people safe, as some twisted liability. Before I could answer, Abigail stepped up. Mrs. Walker, I'd suggest you stop making defamatory claims, especially when there's documented proof of financial fraud. Laura's face lost color. But before she could spin another lie, the office door opened, and Amelia walked out. Her chin was up, her voice steady. I want to stay with Dad, she said, stepping beside me. Mom, I heard you and Michael talking. About the money. About Dad's forged signature. Right there in that tense room, my daughter showed a strength I hadn't fully seen before. Laura's face shifted, shock, then calculation. This isn't over, she muttered, grabbing her purse. Michael was right about you. You've always been in the way. She stormed out, and Abigail wasted no time. She filed emergency custody paperwork right from her phone. As we left, Amelia slipped her hand into mine. Dad, she whispered, there's something else. I took pictures of papers on Mom's desk. Michael's name isn't Benson. It's Ryan Joseph Sullivan. That name lit a fire in Abigail's eyes as she pulled up her laptop. 3 open fraud investigations, she said. Different states. No convictions, but plenty of restraining orders. We sat at a quiet corner booth at Hilltop Diner, papers spread out like a war map. Amelia sipped a milkshake while Abigail went through the files. He targets families where one spouse works dangerous jobs, she said. Cops, firefighters, military, now hazmat specialists. Why? I asked. Insurance, she said simply. High coverage for life and disability. Add in home equity and retirement accounts. You're the perfect target. The idea hit me hard. Not just fraud, something darker. You think they were planning more than just stealing money? I asked. Abigail nodded. In other cases, husbands had accidents after the money was secured. Suspicious timing every time. Amelia set down her milkshake, her face pale. Dad. Last week, Michael asked Mom if you worked with caustic stuff. He said how easy it'd be for an accident to happen. My stomach turned. I'd spent my life keeping others safe from toxic materials, and now the danger had come home. We need to go to the police, I said. We will, Abigail said, but right now, we need something solid. A direct link to the fraud or worse. Right then, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Things have gotten out of hand. Meet me at Riverside Park. 7:30 p.m. Come alone. Laura. I showed Abigail. She frowned. It's risky, she said. It's also our shot, I replied. If I can get her talking. Wearing a wire, Abigail finished. And we'll be nearby, just in case. I looked at Amelia, who watched us with wide, anxious eyes. Sweetheart, I need you to stay with Henry tonight. I'm scared, Dad, she said softly. Suddenly, she looked like a little girl again. I squeezed her hand. I've dealt with hazardous threats my whole life. This one's just personal. But as I got ready for that meeting, I couldn't ignore the cold irony. I'd spent years protecting strangers from lethal substances, and now the most dangerous threat was inside my own home. Riverside Park was almost empty by dusk. I parked near the boathouse, away from the scattered cars. The wire under my shirt itched, but Abigail had tested the mic, said it'd pick up everything. Testing, testing, I muttered. Loud and clear, Abigail's voice came through the earpiece. Henry and I are at the north entrance. I remembered the code word we'd agreed on: containment. I said it out loud, just to be sure. It was our signal in case things went south. I spotted Laura sitting alone on a bench by the water. No sign of Michael, well, Ryan, now that we knew his real name. I approached carefully, scanning the area the way I would at a chemical spill, calm but ready for anything. She stood up as I got close. Looked worn down. The tough act she usually wore had faded. Thanks for coming, she said. Where's your partner? I asked, keeping my distance. Michael doesn't know I'm here, she answered, glancing over her shoulder like she expected him to show up at any second. Things have gotten complicated. Is that what we're calling identity theft and fraud now? I replied, not hiding the edge in my voice. Her eyes flickered with anger but settled into something more like regret. You don't get it. I was miserable for so long. Michael offered me a way out, a fresh start. By stealing our money and blowing up our lives? I shot back. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she whispered. At first, it was just about securing my future. But then he started talking about your life insurance, about how risky your job is. A chill crawled up my spine. So what? You were planning an accident for me? Tears welled up in her eyes. Not me. Never me. But Michael, he changed. He asked questions about your gear, your work, how hazardous materials could mess someone up without leaving a trace. I clenched my jaw, struggling to stay calm. And that didn't raise red flags? It scared me, she said, voice cracking. That's why I'm here. Last night, I found some disturbing research on his laptop, stuff about symptoms of toxic exposure, and even articles discussing staged workplace incidents. I kept her talking. Why now? Why tell me this? Because he's planning something soon, she said. He told me to make sure Amelia wasn't home tomorrow night. Said it'd be better if she didn't see the incident. My heart pounded. Protective instincts kicked into overdrive. I need something solid, Laura. Evidence. She hesitated, then reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. Everything's on here, victim info, financial records, the whole thing. I managed to copy it when he wasn't around. Just as I reached for the drive, I caught movement behind her, a tall figure stepping out from the trees. The last light of day hit something shiny in his hand. Containment. I barked into the wire, already lunging forward. I tackled Laura just as a shot rang out. Pain tore through my shoulder, hot and sharp. Ryan's voice echoed across the park. Traitor. He stepped closer, gun in hand. You think I didn't see this coming? He shouted. You were always in the way. Blood soaked through my jacket, but adrenaline pushed me forward. I shoved Laura beneath the bench, blocking her with my body. It's over, Ryan. I shouted, using his real name. The cops know everything. You're surrounded. He stopped, scanning the area. You're bluffing. He snapped. Am I? I said. Your real name's out. Your storage unit's been searched. Your whole game's over. I was gambling. Just trying to buy a few seconds. In my earpiece, I heard Abigail's voice calling in our exact location. Ryan's face twisted in rage. You think you've won? Guys like you always think your family would never turn on you. That's when Henry's voice boomed out from behind a tree. Drop the weapon. He stepped into the open, all 6-foot-something of him, looking like a man you don't mess with. Abigail came in from the other side, holding her phone up, camera rolling. Ryan spun toward Henry, and that gave me the moment I needed. I ignored the fire in my shoulder and launched myself at him, full force. We hit the pavement hard. The gun clattered across the ground. I pinned him down, grinding through the pain. You've been neutralized, I growled. Just another toxic threat I had to deal with. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Ryan thrashed beneath me, face twisted in fury. She was supposed to be mine, he screamed. We had plans. Plans that involved taking out my client, Abigail said, her voice cold and steady, phone still recording. Accidents happen, Ryan sneered. Especially in high-risk professions. Behind me, I heard movement. Laura slowly crawled out from under the bench, her face pale as chalk. I never agreed to that, she whispered. Never. As the police cars filled the parking lot, red and blue lights flashing across the water, I felt something strange wash over me. Not relief exactly, but closure. Like sealing off a contamination zone. My marriage was done. But the threat? Contained. The danger to Amelia? Neutralized. Later, at the hospital, as they treated my shoulder, Abigail waited just outside in the corridor. Amelia sat beside her, the two of them talking quietly. When I finally came out, arm in a sling, Abigail stood and offered a soft smile. Your daughter's been telling me about your work, she said. How you protect people from invisible threats. Looks like you brought that skill home tonight. Amelia threw her arms around me carefully. Dad, I was so scared when they called. I pulled her in with my good arm. The best protection specialists know when to call for backup, I said. Abigail chuckled at that, her usual cool demeanor melting just a little. Speaking of backup, she added, someone's got to drive you two home. My car's out front. And right there, in that cold, sterile hospital hallway, with the sharp smell of antiseptic in the air and flickering fluorescent lights above us, I saw something I hadn't seen before. A future. Not built on betrayal and broken trust, but on truth, healing, and a second chance. 3 months later, I sat quietly in Judge Campbell's courtroom as Ryan Joseph Sullivan was sentenced. 21 years. Attempted murder. Fraud. Identity theft. Conspiracy. His lawyers had tried to make a deal, but once 2 of his past victims came forward after seeing the news, the evidence crushed any negotiation. Laura got a lighter sentence, 18 months, with parole and restitution. She had turned over that flash drive willingly. That counted for something. Part of me still struggled with what she'd done, but I'd accepted that revenge wouldn't fix what had been broken. Abigail leaned in beside me, her hand gently resting on my good arm. "You okay?" she whispered. My shoulder had mostly healed, though I still had a month of physical therapy ahead. "Better than I expected," I told her. After court, we stepped out into the crisp November sunshine. Amelia sat on the courthouse steps, books scattered around her. She'd insisted on being there, but homework didn't stop just because justice had been served. "Is it over?" she asked as we approached. "It's over," I said, sitting next to her. "Ryan's not hurting anyone else again." She gave a slow nod. "And Mom? She made her choices," I said carefully. "But she did try to warn me in the end. That has to count for something." Amelia leaned against my shoulder, my good one, and sighed. It sounded heavier than any 17-year-old should carry. "I keep thinking about how close we came to losing you." I gave her a small smile. "Hazmat specialists are hard to eliminate," I joked. "We know too much about containment." Abigail joined us then, her usual polished professionalism softening again around Amelia. Over the last few months, she'd become more than our lawyer. She was a friend, a confidant, and maybe more. "Your dad's house paperwork is clear now," she told Amelia. "The fraudulent loan's been voided. Title's officially in his name." "Our house," I corrected, looking at Amelia. "Our home." That evening, after Abigail headed out and Amelia disappeared upstairs to finish her homework, I sat alone in the backyard, watching the sun dip below the trees. The world looked different now, more fragile in some ways, but more real too. Solid. My marriage was over, but something new had taken root in its place. Clarity, strength, and the understanding that emotional damage needs containment just like any chemical spill. Identification, isolation, and long, careful cleanup. The job wasn't done, but for the first time in a long time, the site was secure. Tomorrow night, Abigail was coming over for dinner. The three of us, building something new. Not to replace what was lost, but to create something better. Something honest. 1 year after walking out of my house that Wednesday morning, I stood in that same kitchen again, this time surrounded by friends and family for Amelia's 18th birthday. Henry and his wife had brought a cake. My brother flew in from Colorado. Even a buddy from the hazmat team showed up with some ridiculous chemical gag gifts that made Amelia roll her eyes and laugh. "Blow out the candles," I said as she paused, eyes closed. She took a deep breath and blew out all 18 flames in one shot. The room broke out in cheers. "What did you wish for?" Abigail asked, her arm looped in mine. "Can't tell you," Amelia grinned. "But I think it's already coming true." Later, after the guests had left and the house quieted down, Amelia tugged on my sleeve and led me out to the back porch. "I've been thinking," Amelia said, her voice suddenly serious, "about visiting Mom when she gets out next month." I nodded. I'd been expecting this talk. "If that's what you want, I'll support you." She hesitated, then looked at me. "Will you come with me?" Just the first time. There was something vulnerable in her voice I hadn't heard in a while. I reached out and gave her shoulder a gentle squeeze. "Absolutely." I meant it. After she went upstairs, Abigail and I stayed behind, cleaning up in a kind of quiet rhythm we'd fallen into easily over the months. After a while, she leaned against the kitchen counter and gave me a look. "I have something for you," she said, pulling a small envelope from her purse. "It's official as of this morning." Inside was a certified letter confirming what I hadn't realized I still needed to hear. My credit? Fully restored. Every last scar from what Laura and Ryan had done. Wiped clean. Abigail smiled. "Clean bill of financial health. You're officially decontaminated." I set the letter aside and took both her hands in mine. "Thank you. Not just for this, for everything." She smirked. "Just doing my job." We both knew it had stopped being just a job a long time ago. Before I could second-guess myself, the words came out. "Move in with us." Even I was surprised how natural it sounded. "You're here most nights anyway. Amelia adores you." And I paused. Took a breath. "I'm ready to build something new." Her eyes widened a little, then softened. "Are you sure?" I nodded. "I've spent my life identifying hazards," I said. "But you? You're the opposite of danger. You're safety. You're steady." I smiled. "You're home." That night, as I lay in bed with Abigail sleeping peacefully beside me, I thought back on the last year. How it all started with a quiet end, my wife saying she was done, and me walking out the door without a fight. No one could have predicted the chaos that followed, or that in the wreckage, I'd find something worth rebuilding. Something real. Funny thing about dangerous materials, if you neutralize them properly, they don't just stop being toxic. Sometimes, they become the foundation for something stronger than what came before. Betrayal had been the most corrosive, poisonous substance I'd ever encountered. But successfully containing it, that might have been the most important work of my life.